and they're speaking about these things for the first time. Now, as we know, when I say I met a man on Curry Street, I'm introducing that guy to you for the first time. Once I have, and now we share the knowledge that I met that guy on Curry Street, then I say, the guy said to me, where's the English office? And I told the guy it was on the second floor, right? We now share that knowledge, don't we? Because of previous mention. Now, when you've got a culture of scientists, it's kind of like this previous mention. They've already read, somebody has mentioned to every one of those people already. They've read it in journals, or they've been to another conference or something. That previous mention has already happened. So we now move to, it's almost like we move to subsequent mention straight away. So this rule and the previous mention rule are connected. So once you know somebody has already been introduced to that thing you're talking about, you can treat it as like, even the first time you speak, you can treat it as subsequent mention. Because you know it's already been mentioned to you. So, in deciding whether to use the definite or indefinite article, therefore, you sometimes have to consider two things. Whether or not the noun or noun phrase has a unique reference, yeah, first question, and whether or not your reader shares the knowledge. If you don't know who your readers are likely to be, or if there's a great variety in the backgrounds of your readers, like for example, you're getting up and giving your oral presentation to this class, we've got a very diverse group, haven't we, with different knowledge about different things, you wouldn't do the first form. You would use your indefinite article. Yeah. As is often the case with technical reports, for example, you cannot depend on the sharing of specialised knowledge. In such cases, you use the indefinite article. Right, that is probably not so common form of the, because you've got to be in these specialised groups for it to happen. But it is a function. Alright, implied uniqueness, our last rule. A less frequent use occurs when the writer wants to imply that it now has a unique reference, even though the reader may not know this uniqueness. Have a look at this Volkswagen repair manual. Removing and installing regulator. The regulator is mounted in the engine compartment next to the battery. Always disconnect the battery ground strap before removing the regulator. The manual had previously discussed the regulator, engine compartment and the battery, but it had not yet said anything about a battery ground strap. How many battery ground straps are there? One. Yeah, you can tell that, can't you? Because the reader says the. As it says, yet even a reader who knows nothing about cars would infer, like would conclude, from the writer's use of the definite article that there is only one battery ground strap involved. Yeah. So you can kind of force your reader to realise, oh, there's only one of these things by using the. Yeah.
It's similar to the basics of it.
Yeah, I guess it would force a writer to the reader to recognise that only one. Although I think the basis is more because it's a special noun. Let's have a look at some other. Look, they go on. Same manual, and this I don't even know this is English because it's so complicated. I don't recognise most of these words. Valve train. The camshaft is gear driven off the crankshaft and runs in 3 split shell bearings. A Woodruff key positions the crankshaft gear while the camshaft gear is riveted in place. Solid lifters, push rods and adjustable rocker arms make up the valve operating linkage. Alright, we can tell from that there are only one of a number of these things, isn't it? How many camshafts are there? One. How many crankshaft gears? Have a look at the italics. A crankshaft gear, only one. How many camshaft gears? The next bit, the next one, number 3, italics. Only one. And last one, valve operating linkages. How many of those are there in this machine? Only one. Yeah. So there are 4 examples, aren't there? And just by using it, you haven't even said the first time, but you're forcing the reader into understanding there's only one of these things. A less common form, but it exists. A lot of the time in instructions. You know, open your new iPhone or your iMac and it says, you know, insert the pin provided into the slot to open the battery compartment. The pin provided, you know there's only one pin.
So is it normally unique for the academic reading, like the articles and everything? Do they use this method?
I don't know if we can say it's sort of, it's just distributed across all forms. I don't know if it's, look, one particular genre it's strong in is this sort of thing, like instructions and manuals and describing machines, and you know,
Yeah.
you'll see it there, I guess, more than other areas of use.
I mean, like sometimes we read the transcript and all the stuff, but they don't use this.
Yeah, no, this is a less common one. But I guess in technical manuals about machines and apparatus, you might see it more often. Yeah. Let's, I think, while we've been through our 7 principles, let's look at some general practice now. So if we, on our last page, just flip over and go back, and we'll just pick one of these, I think. I showed you on Monday, of course, how you can make exercises to this now, you know, and you just do them and do them and do them, and think, this is your key, this is your key. But we've done our 7 conditions in here, when it's unique, haven't we? But we've got to think about all this other stuff as well. We could practice it with, let's take exercise B. Exercise B. 30.5
Which one?
B. Standard ESSA wind observations. I'll read it through so you get a sense of the topic. By far, most complete wind data available in the United States reside, that's like live in, records of US Weather Bureau stations, which number more than 1,000. Many of stations have been in operation for 1 or more decades, and ESSA has provided an excellent record-keeping centre at Asheville, North Carolina, so that data can be easily gotten out. Typical surface wind observation is usually obtained from slow-moving cup anemometer and vane assembly. So they're talking about collecting wind speed. So you know those little things that measure wind, and they're kind of like those little cups, aren't they? That I'm drawing it very badly, but spins around. That's an anemometer. And the vane is the thing at the top which swings around and shows direction. Usually a rooster, usually a bird. In agriculture anyway, usually a bird. So that's what they're talking about. Mounted in well-exposed location, about 30 feet above ground or building structure. The vast majority of sites are at airports, and urban observations are comparatively rare. Standard observation procedure is to note indicated wind speed and direction for a brief period, once each hour, and record them to 10 degrees, normally 16 compass points, and nearest mile per hour. Normally, a contacting device is associated with anemometer, from which one can obtain time required for 1 mile of wind flow to pass instrument. Observations called pieballs or rabals are taken at many of stations, using either visual or electronic tracking of rising balloons several times per day to determine variation of wind with height. Data are processed. See there, I've talked about data and said it's plural in very scientific papers. I would normally write the data is, but these guys, you know, they're professional scientists, data are. So if you're getting into science, probably best to write data are. If you're not, data is. Subcultural difference. Data are processed to reflect wind at 1,000-point intervals above sea level. Yeah, how are we going for time? I reckon while we're hot, aren't we? We should do this now. While you got your 7 rules floating around in your head, go for it. Alright, have 10 minutes, quarter an hour discussion. Don't work alone with this. Process through discussion. Go and do, if you like, a bit of cherry picking. Go through and do the easy ones first. Then come back. Which ones immediately kind of occur to you? Do them, and then go back and discuss the tougher ones.
Regarding this, I have a
Together.
concern because using like the in between the sentence.